Hello, welcome to the Be Well Now Method podcast. I am Janet Huehls, and I am here today again with Dr. Jan Anderson. You know about her if you've watched the podcast before, and our conversations are always so much fun. And in our last episode together, we talked about making peace with your core. We called it the peace core, but there's so much here beyond just core strength. There's our gut brain, there's our heart brain. There's so much going on in the center of our body. And as Dr. Jan and I talk about a lot, weight loss and weight stigma and weight bias and struggles with calories in, calories out, and all that stuff. We're going to dive into that today and really start to break apart these messages that we get that take us into extremes and create a lot of stress. And that stress state gets in the way of weight loss.
Yeah.
And so I invite us to start today with Be Well Now meditation, which is a mindful movement meditation, because stress is the state of our brain all over the place in that past future, but also it's our body ready to move. So a Be Well Now meditation just asks us to just be. So we'll just let our body find a way that it can just rest without trying. Just let your bones hold you and feel your breath moving in and out and become aware of your body right now. And become aware of, you have this center of your body that has a lot of knowing. You might even close your eyes and feel your heart and feel your center. And that these parts have this knowing beyond what you know in your head. And then expand that awareness to your body and become aware of your body and notice where you are holding stress tension. What areas are in that ready to move state? And you have options here. You could do a big, huge, just whole body stretch, or you could just squeeze and release a little bit. You could even do a little massage, but add a little muscle action and something that just your body says thank you. Just moving it any way. There's no right or wrong. And notice how your body is taking care of you just by releasing that tension. And then come back to stillness. Notice how you feel. It
What a great
is
way to
just,
start.
yeah. So
Thank
Dr.
you.
Jan, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. So we were talking about so much just before the show about weight. Weight. Just the word alone creates a lot of stress. How do we break this down? How do we get to the heart, get to authentic weight loss, an authentic, real approach to weight loss that really addresses the way we're designed? I want to hear more about what you've been learning and exploring yourself. Yeah.
Well, actually, when I hear you say that, what I think of is, for some people, they would really take objection to you even using the word weight loss or focusing on weight loss.
Yeah.
That it's like, and there's a certain, I guess what I'm thankful for where we are now is that those voices are starting to be heard a little more. Like, the whole definition of obesity is changing.
Yes.
There's evidently there are going to be two definitions, and I guess if I could put it in my layman's language, there is being at a higher weight, but all your health numbers are good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then why are we bothering you?
Yeah. Right.
Focusing on you, and then over here, okay, yes. You're at a higher weight, and it does seem to be associated with certain problems. Not necessarily causing them even, but being associated with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it is changing. It is changing how we think about it.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that the health at every size movement and some of those movements or ways of thinking that have come into vogue. I'm thankful for that it helps us appreciate or just make, it's an interesting phrase to use, but make room for more sizes, shapes, and types of bodies.
Yeah.
Rather than this one little rigid, one right way you have to be. I'm very thankful for that, and just lessening some of the judgment and the stigma.
Oh,
It's
it's
a
so
good thing.
refreshing. Yeah, it really is. I think I've been working directly with people with obesity for or struggling with extra weight for the past 20 years, for the past my whole career, talking about weight for the past 30 plus years.
Mhm,
And I've become very protective of this population because
mhm.
I sit with them and I hear their stories. And there isn't one answer. It's not calories in, calories out. And there are many reasons why someone's carrying extra weight. And like you, I'm so happy that the people who had voices, who have voices to say, look, I'm overweight and I'm healthy. I'm okay. Leave me alone. I'm
Yes.
okay. Um, they
Yeah,
have a say in this now. And that's really good to hear. It's really good to hear.
yes. And then now I'm gonna, go flip it and go to the complete other side and
I
say
love when you do that, Jan.
one of the things that concerns me, though, is that people who there are people who feel they're going to lose their friends, their community, if they actively want
Mm,
to lose weight. That concerns me too, that it's not okay. Okay, let's say the person that it would help perhaps, or
mhm.
at least they want it, but
Yeah.
they're being judged for
Yeah.
wanting it, that there's something wrong with you because you want to take off weight.
Mm, yeah.
And if you're gonna have that attitude, you can't be in our tribe.
Mm.
And
So,
that concerns me.
yeah. Can you describe those two camps a little bit more for people who aren't really aware of those extremes in the weight loss world? Maybe they're in one side of it and haven't experienced the other side. But I know
Yes.
that you've looked at both sides. So I would love your
Yeah.
explanation of the extremes there.
I guess if I was gonna try to sum it up really simply, um, is, extremes never work really well. Uh, so I guess what I would say is, let's say over here on one side, if your, mindset is over concerned about certain measures
Mm,
or and appearance or looks, or if you care too much,
mhm,
it's not gonna be good.
mm,
On the other hand, if you go over to the other side and let's just say what goes with that. Well, let's say a lot of restriction, a lot of deprivation, lots of rules about what you
mhm,
eat, when you eat it, what type it is, where it was grown, whatever. Okay, then, if you keep going to the farthest reaches of that, you
mm,
have orthorexia, uh, a an eating disorder.
mm. Yeah.
Okay, then on the other side, um, those people who I am healthy. Yes, my weight does not fit your charts, and
Mm,
yet my blood pressure is fine, my A1C is fine, or whatever. Why are you telling me to lose weight? Or why do you make me
mm,
feel bad
mm.
about how I am? You know?
Yeah.
So for that group to push back more, or kind of
Mhm.
like, wait a minute, to
Yeah.
question that, it's a good thing. Where I start to get concerned is if you take it to the farthest extreme, it's weight doesn't matter, what I'm eating doesn't matter. Don't talk to me about that. Um, and it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter to
Mm,
me, and it shouldn't to you either. So just leave me alone.
yeah.
Um, that I guess to me, where is the truth or the authentic
Mm,
place?
yeah.
To me, where it is, it's some of both. It's always
Mm,
that way. It's never black or white.
yeah.
You know, this
Yeah.
place in the middle is we are a tribal species.
Mm,
For our survival, it matters to us how we appear to other people.
yeah.
And that's not going to ever go away. So to
Right.
try to embrace a message that I don't care what I look like and you shouldn't either, and I'll
Mm,
get in your face about it if you question me about it. It's like it's not real.
yeah.
We will always care what our tribe members think about us, and if we don't, we're not we're not a tribe.
Mm,
It's putting our survival at risk if
yeah.
we don't hang together.
Yeah. So it's isolating if you don't care, if you don't pay attention to that part of you that cares.
I guess,
in
yes.
some way. It doesn't mean you have to look like a size 2 model, but in
Yeah,
some way caring. I'd also add to that, we care about how we function, because to be part
yes.
of the tribe, if you couldn't keep up with the tribe and you were pulling everyone back,
Good
you weren't going
point.
to stay in that tribe,
Yeah,
for very long. You couldn't pull your weight. So how we function, I see this a lot in clients and patients I talk to who have very fit family members
yes.
and they can't keep up with them. And that's
Uh,
isolating for them
yes,
when their fitness level gets in the way of them connecting.
yes.
And that causes a lot of stress because you're, like you said, that's tribal.
Yeah.
That's innate if I can't keep up.
So I guess my point is, don't judge people for caring how they look and how
Mm.
what other people think of them. In
Mm.
fact, oh, here's a perfect opportunity to introduce another committee member in your head. And the name of that committee member is What Will People Think?
Mm.
And that's a part
Oof.
of us that's built
Yeah.
into our survival system,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess you don't have to overdo it and get
Right.
overly concerned,
Right.
but it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
So don't judge me for wanting for it mattering.
Okay. Yeah. So authentic weight loss is then being real about the way our brain is hardwired to care what other people think. Is that
Yeah.
does that is that what you're
So I
saying, or
guess
is there more to that than that simple
actually, I
statement?
guess the next thought that comes to me is it's like almost where we are in history and society is trying to enlarge to make
Mm.
more room
Mm.
for it being okay,
Yeah.
various sizes, shapes, and
Yeah.
weights. To me, I fully embrace that. That
Yeah.
make the circle
Mhm.
bigger. Let other
Yeah.
people in. It's not helpful to have such a
Right.
tiny little rigid one
Mhm.
way, one size
Yeah.
fits all, way to
Yeah.
be perceived well and effective and successful and attractive
Mhm.
in our culture. I'm glad that the tent is getting bigger.
Yeah.
It's almost like translate it to this. If I'm over here and I want to take off some weight, don't judge me for it.
Mm.
And over here, if I'm
Right.
over here and saying, I'm pretty happy with where I am, and it's just,
Yeah.
don't judge me for it.
Okay.
It's almost like there's so much judgment on
Yeah.
either
Right.
extreme
Right.
has so much judgment, and it's just not helpful.
This really connects to that article that I sent you about weight bias and all of that, and how it's embodied. We've embodied this, we put it on people, this embodiment that it's their fault. That the calories in, calories out says, you know what, if you're carrying extra weight, you have just been lazy. You have not been paying attention to what you're eating. You're not being responsible. All of these kind of things that you should be doing better. You could do better if you have
Mhm.
extra weight. And
Yeah.
this middle ground says, you know what? There's no fault here. There's no need for judgment. If you are listening to your own body, your own thoughts, your own emotions, your own heart, if you're listening to that and you're feeling and functioning the way you want, you're living on your values,
Mhm.
you're happy, you're joyful, you're authentic, you're real, then who can tell you that you're not healthy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, certainly we have those measures of health, right? And so, yeah, you could go to your doctor and they could be like, all right, yeah, your blood pressure's trending a little high and it seems to be going up when your weight goes up. Or that knee pain seems to be going up when your weight goes up.
Yes.
And so maybe a doctor can kind of shine a light on an awareness that maybe you might not have if you didn't have certain tests done, like blood sugar, right? Or blood pressure, that are often invisible. We don't have
Yes.
symptoms of those until we go to the doctor and find it out. So
Yeah.
certainly there's so much room here for a medical review of your health and how that
Yes.
might connect with weight. But then it's turning back on that person and saying, what do you notice? What's going on
Yes.
here? Your weight's trending
Yes.
up. What are you noticing? What are you feeling like? What
Yes.
and I think we need more, especially in the medical field, we need more asking, what are you feeling? What's going
Yeah.
on? Are you
Yeah.
doing, are you noticing you're using food to soothe emotions? What are the emotions? Where's that coming from? And getting to the root of this, that's where I think this connects with the core, in
Yeah.
that when we're eating emotionally, it's some emotion that we're trying to stuff down. There's something there, and that emotion is a message. And that's how
Yeah.
we're wired, to have emotions to tell us what we need and what needs are not filled. So the more real we are about that, but if we have so much judgment coming from medical people or people in different camps or social media, we can't hear ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm thinking of someone who made a comment that's more over on the side of anti-diet, you would
Mm.
say, or health at every size, but also kind of stressing out that she had to do some kind of promotional thing for her book or
Um,
something, and
yeah.
how well, now I'm going to have to put makeup on or be on this talk show or whatever, and I've got to like look right. And
Mm.
she was actually, oh, well, this is what it's kind of like, well, this is what you have to do to sell your book or whatever. But it's
Yeah.
like I could hear the judgment of herself, and I
Ugh,
felt bad for her because it's
yeah.
like, um, I shouldn't care, but I have to
Right.
anyway. Do you see the self judgment that was there?
Yes.
And
Yes.
to me, that's not a whole lot better than going to the other extreme of,
Yeah.
oh my God, I- I've got to be perfect. I've got to look perfect before I go on this
Mm.
talk show or something,
Yeah.
and being so consumed or obsessed with it that you can't even connect with the person
Mm. So it sounds like all of this external noise creates a lot of shoulds in ourselves. We start
on
shoulding
either
all over
side,
ourselves. Yeah, on
on
either
either
side,
extreme.
all around, all around, there's these extremes and they create a lot of shoulds when in reality, they're just there to inform us about both ends of the spectrum. And I love your middle ground piece here, that what does that look like? What does it feel like? How would someone find their middle ground to get rid of those shoulds and get more into that authentic weight loss? Do you have any tips for that?
Mhm. Yeah. I'm thinking that too, like a place that to me is in this very peaceful
Mm.
place that we would call the middle, or maybe the core, your middle,
Yeah.
your core,
Yeah. Yeah.
to be kind of neutral. Or
Mm.
I don't want how I look to be distracting
Yeah.
from my ability to connect and be able to share information.
Yeah. So the aesthetic piece of this and then is not aesthetics to impress, but aesthetics to feel comfortable in your own body and your own being as an expression of
Yeah.
who you are, not
Yeah, I
trying to
love
hide
that.
it or minimize it, but
Okay.
to express it.
Yes. Okay, so I guess what I would do with what you said is, like, I need to respect you enough to show you that I care, that I went
Mm.
to the trouble to look decent when I
Yeah.
showed up,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Um, um, I don't have to overdo it, but again, it's about connection. And if I go back
Yeah.
to, survival and evolution,
Hmm.
it's kind of like, I don't know, let's just say you do have to pay attention to what's appropriate for that tribe. And so let's just
Yeah.
say if I was a zebra, I need to not show up with spots. They're gonna be really suspicious of me if I show
Right.
up trying to be in the zebra tribe or herd, and I'm
Yeah.
covered with spots. It's like, "Okay, do you have a disease or what?" Um,
Right. You might be
so
put off.
it's like
Yeah.
it does matter. Okay, yeah, if I'm going to a certain professional group, okay,
Mm.
there's kind of a standard or
Mm.
a dress code or something. It's like, okay, it's okay to pay attention to that
Yeah.
and respect it.
So there's
You
some people who would say, there's some renegade people who would be like, why do I have to conform? Why would I have to do that? And I
Yes,
think what you're saying is, it sounds like what you're saying is that you're not conforming just to conform. You are connecting. It's not
yes,
conforming, it's connecting. You
yes,
are, how do you want to show up so that you can connect? That's the core of this. The core need there is connection. It's
yes,
not conforming. It's not because you should, it's because you want to connect. So how can
yes,
you show up and connect and not
yes,
be presenting as somebody who's disconnecting, as fucking the system, so much so that you can't connect with people, they can't connect with you. I think this comes back to weight too, in that when we're true to ourselves and we show up confident in how we are, right, then we build that trust.
Well, I guess I'm saying there's this nice place to be where
Yeah.
I can be who I am,
Yeah.
but also be part of my tribe.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be either or.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. We got to find our
yeah.
own way, but also connect with other people and be aware of.
Well, I guess I would say, okay, part of who I am is that I do like connecting with people. Yes, it does
Mm,
matter what you think of me enough
yeah.
that I'm going
Yeah.
to pay attention to that
Yeah.
and kind of respect you. Or here's another way I think of it in terms of extremes. You could say over here is if you go too extreme, it's
Mm,
okay, you all count, I don't count.
mm,
Okay.
okay.
Then over
Yeah.
here, okay, I count, you all don't count.
Mm,
Where I
yeah.
love being is, you count, I count too.
Yeah.
That's
This
an
really, yeah.
integration.
Yeah. This all really connects to the like core needs. Like I think there's three core needs, right? We need to feel safe. If you don't feel safe, forget it. There nothing else is going to matter because you're not safe. You're going to protect yourself. We need to be valued. And so, yeah, to have that equal sense of value, that equal sense of we all matter. I matter equally as much as you do, and you matter equally as much as I do. And if we show up in that way, from that place of authenticity about value, then
Yes,
we're going to connect easier, which is the third core need is connection.
yes. And
Yeah.
and again, if I go back and basically reiterate though something from earlier, it's our kind of like it's been like the eye of a needle trying to get
Mm.
into, being perceived as acceptable, attractive, successful, or whatever. So I'm very glad that
Mm.
that's been called out. And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, we got to
Yeah.
make this a little more
Yeah.
inclusive,
Yeah.
uh,
Yes.
so that, okay, yeah, that is kind of different, but we can you start to just be able to make more room for
Hmm.
more types of people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
gosh, that's going to make us a better
Yeah.
society.
Yeah. I
It's
like
going
how
to
you're
make our
saying this.
tribe
Yeah.
more, well, it'll make it
Right.
stronger, in my
Yeah. And we're
opinion.
going to be more effective, both as healthcare professionals, as human beings, to honor what that person knows and allow somebody to find their own way, and rather than forcing a way on somebody that is supposedly better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm just
Yeah.
glad that the metric seems to be
Mm.
broadening.
Yeah. I am too. I'm so glad you brought this to attention because I think that if somebody's in one or camp or the other, they might not realize that there's two camps out there and that there is a middle ground, and we can ricochet between the two. And I like how you're describing this middle ground. So it sounds like the way to find that middle ground is to really listen to what you know in your body about yourself, what you value, what's important to you, how you feel, how you function, all of that, that sense of internal knowing.
Mhm.
And then present, being willing and having the courage to present that to the world with confidence, to say, this is what I
Yes.
know is important to me. And it doesn't mean you're not going to get help from other people. It means here's what's important to me. What can you tell me about, how I can even grow stronger and thrive more? Um,
Mhm.
I really like that.
Yeah.
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 Anything you'd add to that kind of description of the middle ground, kind of summary of the middle ground?
That it's like, what if what's important to you is connection,
Mm,
but you feel like the only way that you can connect is to follow the extreme rules of
mm,
either tribe.
yeah.
Well, one of the things that has been totally, I mean, one of the highlights of my whole year of
Mm,
focusing on this whole issue for myself is learning from, now I'm going to the side that's more on the, what we would call intuitive eating
mm,
or anti-diet, health at
yeah.
every size. One of the things that has just been transformative for me is becoming aware of how much eating is deprivation driven
Mm,
and restriction driven.
yeah.
So I kind of like do that. Let's just say over here, let's just say the extremes of extreme dieting and extreme
Hmm.
not dieting. Oh, let's just
Hmm.
put it that way. Or anti-diet, extreme
Yeah.
anti-diet and extreme dieting. That if you're in the extreme dieting camp, it's such a horrible existence because you're always so hyper vigilant about every little thing or the amount or, again, all the food rules, whatever
Yeah.
particular, program you've, bowed to or signed up
Hmm.
for. Uh, there's so much restriction. And then when you break the rules, you feel so bad. You failed. Inner critic
And
attack.
this is not just about weight loss. There are people living vegetarian diets, lifestyle medicine diets, Mediterranean diets that are doing it with that mindset of if I eat an animal product or even look at one, that's awful. It's bad. If I
Yes.
have dairy, it's awful. It's bad. If I have gluten, it's awful. It's bad. And
Yeah,
and
there's
I
a
think it's
moral
yeah,
there's a
yeah.
moral,
It's
a
yeah, yeah,
moral judgment attached to,
yeah.
uh, certain types of eating.
Hmm.
So, but if you're coming from that world, which would be more the world I've come from, you're the restrictions, the deprivation, it's so built in, it's on
Yeah.
autopilot, you don't even know it's operating. So then
Right.
to engage with this community over here, more intuitive eating, and it's like, hey, what you might want to check out is a lot of times you're eating because you've been deprived or because
Mm.
of the restriction. It's
Yeah.
basically, here's another committee member in your head, you're a rebel.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like,
Right.
you will not tell me what to, or I will have that and I'll have as,
Yeah.
and, or to hell with it, I'm going to eat it all or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
but
Yeah.
severe restriction and
Mm.
deprivation, it tends to create
Mhm.
rebellion. It tends to
Yes.
create that kind of eating. So that was
Yeah.
just a wonderful light bulb for me. It's like, wow. And once
Yeah.
I started really, like you were saying earlier, just start practicing this stuff for yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you know it in your bones, you will have a confidence. It's in the
Yeah.
flesh.
Mhm.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like, it's just, there's a strength and a courage
Yeah.
that comes with it. So
Yeah.
there's that part of it. But on the other hand, over here, it's like the reality is what we eat does matter. You
Mhm.
can't just totally disregard it.
Yeah.
So again, it's always sophisticated, complex, and complicated to get to the middle. That's why
Mhm.
it's harder to do. You know,
Yeah.
it's easy to
Yes.
go either extreme and
Yeah.
live over there as far as, it's simplistic, but it doesn't really work that well. And that's why I'm enjoying, so as I've moved through this year and let go of that, it's just really been amazing how, wow, when I stopped the depriving and the restricting, it changed the way I was eating.
Mm.
It truly is magic. I
Yeah.
would highly recommend it.
It sounds
Now,
very
here's kinda
freeing.
like the caveat with it. When you
Yeah.
do that, I do think it's natural and normal for a lot of us
Mhm.
to now you kinda rebound and you're gonna be eating a lot of stuff
Right.
that's now,
Right.
it's not off limits anymore
Yeah.
or an
Yeah.
amount or whatever,
Yeah.
and you're probably if you've swung too far to the pendulum over here,
Yeah.
it's probably gonna be kinda tough. You're probably gonna swing over here for a while,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and you're
Yeah.
gonna be looking for some way back, and unfortunately, I don't know any way to do it, that pendulum swing. I just wanna make it as gentle a swing as
I
possible.
Yeah. I think that a lot of our discussions have surrounded around how to find that middle without having to go to the extreme to experience both. I mean, certainly you can experience both, but I think, and this is, to bring it back to the Be Well Now method. The Be Well Now method is all of these things that we know work to keep us grounded in what we know inside. And I
Yes,
think these extremes, there's an element to each of them of denying what you know inside. And
that's yes.
right. And so I think the way to find that middle ground without having to go to the extremes to find them is to be present, to be. right? Just like we did in the beginning, just like, oh, let my body just settle in and let me just be in my body. It doesn't mean your body feels perfect. It doesn't mean you're happy with the way your body feels right now or what you're thinking or what you're feeling. It means that you're just going to meet yourself right where you are and be honest and authentic with it, because you're going to meet it with kindness, because you're going
Yes.
to say, oh, I
Yes.
am so tense right now. Oh, I am over full right now. Oh, I am stressed out and tired right now. Or, oh, I'm feeling joy right now because I get to talk to
Yeah.
Dr. Jan, being honest about both, both the full
Yeah.
catastrophe, right? As John Kabat-Zinn talks about, the full
Yeah.
piece of it, the joys and the challenges, and meeting yourself right where you are and saying, wow, I'm feeling this and I'm feeling that. And this is what I'm noticing. And then being willing to stay there and go in your center for answers rather than going to the experts, going to
Yeah.
like this internal place of knowing your gut brain, your heart brain, your intuition. I mean, the stuff I'm researching for my book is just unbelievable, how much our body tells our brain, so much more than our brain tells our body, this interoception.
Yes.
And so I think that going into our body and saying, oh, wait, I'm holding tension. I don't need to. And wow, what do
Yes.
I know in here? And then being able to release that tension so that we can approach the table, approach the
Yes.
refrigerator, approach the gym, approach
Yes.
anything we're doing with more presence and kindness and trust.
And I have, I'll put out one more example of, I think, how that plays out in a practical way
Okay.
is when I'm over identified with, let's just say, the old restrictive dieting, extreme
Yeah.
dieting,
Yeah.
too much over
Yeah.
here. Uh, Part of the mindset, it's kind of like they're kind of like beliefs and rules that go
Mm,
with either extreme, but over here is one of, okay, until weigh this amount or
mm,
have this degree of flexibility or
mm.
whatever, I can't feel good.
Yeah.
Only when, okay,
Right.
and that's suffering. If you want to be
Yeah.
Buddhist about it, that's suffering. Okay,
Sure.
and then you can go to the other side, though. Well, actually, let me just stay with this for a second. Because if you really subscribe to that belief, what I have learned, I've turned it on its head. Because what I can know is even when I'm not at my best, I'm
Yeah.
not where I want to be on any level, I can always do some kind of practice or offer
Mm,
something that makes me feel good
yeah.
emotionally and physically right
Yeah.
now. I'm still, nothing has changed,
Mhm. Yep.
with, let's say, my weight or, you know, acne or just pick something. But all of a sudden, I'm not suffering. I
Yeah.
feel good
Yeah.
and I appreciate it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the difference. And then I would say over here, if I've gotten too identified with the other extreme of you just shouldn't care at all, just don't even
Right.
bother, and don't let anybody tell you different. And it's like, okay, but what if I want to feel something different?
Mm, yeah.
What if I want it?
Yeah.
I would like to be able to get up and down off the floor more easily, let's say,
Mm, yeah.
or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Uh, that it's okay to do something about it, to
Mm,
go for it, to want it and to go for it without having to apologize about it or be
yeah.
ashamed
Yeah.
that you want it.
Right. Yeah. So in that middle ground, you're really trusting what you know inside. You're really trusting that over all of the rules to say, yeah, that's great and that's helpful. But what's more important is what I value, what I feel, how I feel and function, and the reason why I want to feel and function better.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if I can say one last thing though, again, it's always challenging because it's kind of like it's easy to live in either extreme or camp, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
So we all, I think we've explored that enough in this podcast, but to say one last thing, well, so how do you get in this middle spot?
Mm.
Because it is different, and you will
Hmm.
probably need guidance and help in how to do it, because
Hmm.
I don't know of many systems that teach this. I
Yeah.
I I just don't. I just feel so
No.
fortunate to have discovered my mentors who knew something about this. But
Yeah.
basically, one of the ways they described it, you're trying to learn to do two opposite things at the same time, and it's
Hmm.
challenging. It's
Yeah.
challenging, So
Yeah.
it's almost like, like you go over here and you listen to this for a second, like, oh, now I got to listen to this, and like, oh, and then eventually it comes together in a balanced place. But it
Hmm.
is challenging because
Yeah.
you can't go too far either
Right.
way. You keep filtering in, channeling in
Yeah.
the wisdom of both
Yeah.
into something, but it is challenging. I just
Yeah.
don't want to. It's different.
No,
Not that
it's
it can't
different.
be
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. But we
And
need
if
to
you think
build that
about it,
toolbox for
every
listening to
mechanism
ourselves.
in your body
Yeah.
it does that anyway. It's like,
Hmm.
your heart muscle contracts and it
Right.
releases.
Yes.
It's your heart muscle can do two opposite things.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Or,
Right.
just in order to stand upright and balance, things are moving in opposite directions
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
creates balance.
Right.
Oh my
We are
goodness.
balance. We are homeostasis. That's how we're wired. I like how this is a great place to wrap it up, is that we can trust the way that we're wired. We are wired to be well now. We are wired to survive, and so that we can thrive, not just to survive, but for a purpose, for
Yeah.
thriving.
Yeah.
And we have this ability inside of us. It's when we quiet ourselves to listen to it, we
Yeah.
can find that middle ground. But you're right, having some guides along the way is really, really helpful. Um,
Yes, and just thank
yeah.
you so much for letting me be on the podcast. I just
Oh,
so enjoy sharing this. I feel like I receive anything that I give. I feel like I'm receiving back,
well,
tenfold. So it's just so
thank you.
enjoyable. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Dr. Jan. You are so wise. And I really, the name of the name of your service is LifeWise, and there's a good reason for that, because you have a lot of wisdom that you not only share, but you help to pull out of other people through your methods. And I really appreciate that. So thank you
Yeah.
for taking the time to be here. And I
Yes,
look
and I
forward
can't
to
wait
next
for the
time.
next one.
Me too.